all week as part of our Broken Government series. We've been looking at the gridlock here in Washington and talking about how to fix it if possible. I'm joined now by a father and son who say they want to be part of the solution. Republican Congressman Ron Paul has served in Congress for more than 2 decades. He ran for president twice, and now his son, Rand Paul, is running for the U.S. Senate from Kentucky. Thanks to both of you very much for coming in. I assume both of you agree that the government is broken. Congressman, do you agree the government is broken?
Oh, it certainly is. I might define it a little bit differently. I think the mechanism is broken because the government is broke. And that's a big difference. When you have a lot of money, you can be inefficient and you can do things and everybody gets what they want. But once a government becomes broke and the people are really broke too because there's not enough people working to feed the cow, then there's this inefficiency, and by the time you go broke, the government is too big. It's already very inefficient, and that is the reason we actually met this bankruptcy. I don't think we can solve this until we admit the bankruptcy and do something about it, which means you cut way back on spending.
Wait a minute. Congressman, you want to see the U.S. government, the American taxpayer, in effect, go bankrupt?
Well, you have to admit you can't pay the bills. Once the government gets as much debt as we have, the liquidation of debt always happens. You can't avoid it. It's just a matter of question. No, I'm not advising that we renege on paying on the Treasury bills and sending out Social Security. But what is going to happen, though, the debt will be liquidated by paying back money that doesn't have as much value. All you have to have is a 10% inflation rate, and you've wiped off $1 trillion of debt.
That would be that would be unacceptable because 10%. Most people's life savings would be lost in that kind of a situation within a few years.
That's why we have to avoid it. That's why we must avoid it.
Let me bring your son into this conversation. Rand, do you agree the government is broken?
Yes, and I think that if you talk to voters in Kentucky, they'll ask, how are we going to spend $1 trillion on health care, and yet it's not going to add anything to the debt? Nobody here believes that. I don't think many people in the country
believe that. Well, that's what the Congressional Budget Office came up with that assessment, that there are certain ways you can cut some of the growth in Medicare, for example, among other things, and that way you'll have basically no increase in the debt. You don't believe in the CBO? You don't believe in the CBO numbers?
Well, the argument is that they're going to get a lot of money out of waste and fraud. But my question to them is, show me the government program that's ever come in under budget. Look at the Medicare prescription drug plan. CBO predicted it would cost $400 billion. Within a year, they revised their estimates to say it was going to cost $1 trillion. So I think notoriously government underestimates the cost of programs, and when something's free, people tend to overuse it, and it costs a lot more than they project.
Congressman, do you trust the CBO?
Well, I trust them that they're trying to do their best, but I don't think anybody can project the future because you don't know what the revenues will be. You don't know what the interest rates are going to be. You don't know how much abuse there's going to be and who lines up at the trough. So no, nobody can do that, and that's why government always fails once they get involved in doing these things. And the market works because the market irons these things out. The people who are inefficient get shoved aside, or they have to declare their bankruptcy, or they have to revamp. But when government does it, they have nobody to report to. All they do is go back to tax the people even more, and that's why it fails.
So if you were in the Senate right now and you want to be the Republican candidate from Kentucky, Rand Paul, in the United States Senate, you want to get that Republican nomination, you would reject the president's efforts to come up with some sort of health care solution. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I would say is I would reject what the president is proposing, but I would also say that we as Republicans need to articulate a vision for what we would do. I personally am worried about the expense, and people come up to me every day and are worried about the expense. I'm worried about pre-existing conditions. I'm worried about if Wolf Blitzer grills me on these questions and I have a heart attack today, but I survive, that my rates could triple. So I'm concerned about the price, but my question is it that we need more government involvement or less? Over half of what I do as a physician is already paid for by government, and the problem is that when government sets the price for health care, the patient quits caring about the price, and there is no price competition.
All right.
You need to have price competition to make health care work.
I think on this issue of health care, I think the father and the son basically agree. I do think that there is an area of disagreement on national security issues. Congressman, first to you. You would basically want to see the U.S. pull out of Iraq, Afghanistan, shut down Gitmo. Is that right?
Well, I don't think we disagree on national security. Who would be against national security?
Well, on some specifics of national security.
Yeah, there might be some disagreement, but I bet we agree that we shouldn't be fighting wars that we don't declare, and we get ourselves into too much trouble. Now we're in a mess because we didn't follow the rules and we didn't follow the Constitution. Somebody might have a strategy slightly different than mine, but still, not many American people enjoy war and want the presidents to go to war endlessly and carelessly. Yes, my proposal is that it's not in our best interest, it's not in our national security interest, and the sooner we end this, the better, because it's participating in our bankruptcy and it's part of our economic crisis that we're facing.
You would agree or disagree with your dad, Rand?
I would say that the most important thing that the federal government does is take care of our national security, bar none. It's the most important enumerated power of our government is national defense. Something we can't privatize. It's something that we need the national government to do. I also would say that when we go to war, it's the most important vote that any congressman or senator will ever take, and I will treat that seriously. I will make them debate over whether we declare war or not. We have not done that since World War II, and I think that's an important debate, and there are a lot of details of that debate on when our national security is threatened. It's not enough just to say our national security is threatened. We need to have a full-scale debate over when our national security is threatened, and that's an important debate that our country should have.
But having said all that, right now, given the situation in Iraq and Afghanistan, are you with your dad, basically get out quickly, or would you let the generals and the sort of the timeline that's in place work its way?
Right. I think that the actual decisions on troop deployment is the prerogative of the commander-in-chief and not necessarily of Congress. And I don't think that Congress, if they vote to increase troops by 100,000 or reduce troops by 100,000, I don't think that's actually going to be declared constitutional. I think the president has to declare where the troops are in consultation with the generals. Now, the overall picture, we have to ask some important questions. For example, it troubles me and many veterans I talk to that we're paying the Taliban. We have a works program for the Taliban. We'll pay them $8,000 per fighter not to fight. We pay the Taliban to take their weapons back from them. And I had a Marine recently here in Kentucky tell me, look, he says, look, I'm a Marine. I'm trained to take weapons from our enemies. I'm not trained to pay for them.
Well, they use the same strategy.
There is some disagreement.
But by the way, they use the same strategy in the Al-Anbar province. They paid some of the Sunni insurgents not to fight. It seems to have worked, at least for the time being. We'll see how long that strategy works. Unfortunately, we're all out of time, and I hope I'm not going to give you a heart attack, Rand Paul. I assume the questioning was not that tough. You'll survive. If you can survive this, you'll be just fine. You proud of your son, Congressman?
Yeah, he's doing good work. I'll soon retire. He's doing such a good job. I think I'll just sort of fade away.
I know you would. Ron Paul and Rand Paul, a good father-son combo. Guys, thanks very much for coming in.